All right, hey class. All right, so this week we have to do something that I love, which is learn about podcasts. Podcasts are like my favorite thing in the entire world. It is how I learn these days. If you don't know what a podcast is essentially a radio segment or a radio show, but it's only on the internet, right? It doesn't go over the actual radio, but it's just audio. All you do is listen to it. Now, audio to me is an incredible medium. It is the most perfect and beautiful and wonderful medium in which to tell stories, I believe. I think that for me, the type of person that I am, perhaps in the way in which my brain works, even more so than visual accompaniment with uh, audio, I really enjoy listening to things. I actually like listening to a sports. I like listening to the NBA on the radio more than I like watching them NBA in person. Now, this is not necessarily how everyone is, but for those of you, and that seems to be the vast majority of you, because somehow of all the things that haven't caught on yet in China that started here in the West, podcasts haven't seemed to really gotten there. So this may be for some of you, this may be your very first introduction to them. Well, welcome to the wonderful world of podcasts. Podcasts can be about anything. The most popular are true crimes, unsolved crimes, at least in the West or in America. Yikes. Nothing I want to listen to. Horror stories or war stories. Or if you're a giant nerd like me, you listen to economics and physics and communication podcasts about from other academics and other nerds who talk about this type of stuff, right? Or maybe you have a podcast yourself. We have a one of our instructors, actually our big guy, Chris Bowden, who is teaches in the English department, but is also the head of ICB. He for the communication department, or I mean for the entire ICB college. He is my big boss man. He actually has a podcast where he talks about learning Chinese, and he talks to other people who teach both English and Chinese. And so he actually has a podcast that he records himself, which is pretty awesome. But podcasts are really, 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 really cool. And they're a great way to get information to an audience that is interested in your topic. Podcasts are generally chosen based on categories, which you will see. And this is really what we're going to talk about in great detail tomorrow. During our class session is really all about them and kind of where to find them and this basic stuff. And then next week, I'm going to actually give you a tutorial on an audio editing software. So for the first week, I want you to be doing research, and I want you to kind of figure out what it is that you want to talk about. And we're going to go in depth as to how to find all of this information and learn a lot about tomorrow in class. We'll learn about what a podcast is and what the podcast formats are. But I've also given you resources that you can get started with that now. If you don't want to wait for me, you can jump ahead and start looking at them. I posted everything in Canvas. Also, your assignment has several links to those materials built into it. Okay, so let me read your assignment for this week. For your assignment, you are to represent a story or audio report or report in audio form, completely in English, because unfortunately, I am an ignorant rube and the only language I speak is English, okay? About your participation task 2 big idea. So you're taking participation task 2, which is your big idea for the semester, and basically you're just going to create an audio file where you explain it to me. And you're going to demonstrate to me all of how smart you are and everything that you've done so far. So you are essentially creating a report that you will record using only audio. Whatever your big idea is, do some research and start to construct a narrative. Narrative is a fancy word for story. Start to build a story around the message you hope to convey this semester. If you want people to hear you, listen to you, and more importantly, remember the things that you have told them, you have to give it to them with a beginning, middle, and end, like a story. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for us to remember the information. You can also give us little tidbits. But for the purpose of remembering a podcast or a large bit of information, a big idea, we want a story, okay? Now, that doesn't mean it started when I was 5 and I thought about this, right? But it could be like the story of making a peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You first need to start off with the bread and the peanut butter and the jelly, and then you spread the peanut butter, and then you spread the jelly, and then you can put those two sides together, and what you have created is what we love to eat here in America as children, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, all right? That's all I'm talking about. It has a logical kind of story or narrative to it, all right? So this assignment is an opportunity to show me, which is what everything that you do in this course is, show off, show me, explain, use what you've learned to demonstrate to me how smart you are. So what you're showing me is how well you've researched your topic. Oh, how good do you actually know this idea that you're talking about? How well you understand your audience. In this instance, your audience is me. I'm your audience. I want to listen to your podcast. I am one of the people who would be interested in what it is that you have to say. And so if your topic is incredibly specific, if it's about genetic editing in China as it pertains to patents about international intellectual property, okay. Who's listening to that podcast? Most of you probably have no idea what I even just said. That's okay, because it's just supposed to be super technical. The only people that are going to listen to that podcast are people that are super technically informed about that. And so my audience and how my podcast is delivered should be for those people. But for most things, you'll see you want more of a general audience. And so you can just kind of direct it towards me or towards people that might be interested. But it's going to be me listening to it. So, but don't call me James. Don't direct it to just one person. Let's use me as a demographic. Okay. So this, we're going to pretend that whatever it is that you wrote about, I'm also into. So I am pretending to be a person. If your podcast is all about beetles and why they're the most fascinating insect and we need to protect them and all of this other stuff, then I'm going to pretend that I'm a person who's interested in beetles, okay, or bugs or something like that. But you got to keep me interested throughout the entirety of this. Okay. So how well have you researched a topic? How well do you understand why your audience would be interested in your topic? And this also has a lot to do with trends, right? So we want to always be tying in what's going on that's new with beetles or what's new with, NBA basketball or whatever, right? Learn to craft research into a narrative. So you're going to take all of your research and then you're going to turn it into a story that you're going to record for me. And so you're going to learn how to do that. Demonstrate basic audio editing techniques, which I will teach you if you don't already know next week. I've also given you some materials to help you learn. Audio editing seems like it would be something that's incredibly difficult, but once you start to play around, it's actually very easy and quite fun. And maybe some of you have found a new, a new hobby or a new thing to play around with. I want you to be able to demonstrate basic audio editing techniques and demonstrate a knowledge of podcast formats. You'll notice that in your assignment is linked to an understanding of what the podcast formats are, and we will talk about that more tomorrow during our class session. You have got to download Audacity or equivalent audio editing software. If you have audio editing software that is professional grade, good audio editing software that you like and that you've used and that you're familiar with, then you should use that. If you do not have that, download Audacity. Again, I've given you a link that if you click on it will allow you a free download. It is a free program. It is 100% free. You do not have to pay for it. If it says you have to pay for it, do not pay for it. Tell me, let me know what's going on. You should be able to download it completely for free. Okay. I can only give you specific instructions, though, for anything that we're going to do, and you're only going to be able to follow along or take notes that will be relevant next week when I do a live class session where I actually use Audacity, all right? So if you're not using Audacity, that's okay, but I can't help you, and I am not going to translate my Audacity lessons to MacBook Pro or to Pro Tools or to whatever other program that you are choosing to use. So if you don't use Audacity, you're on your own when it comes to the technical stuff, okay? However, most programs are similar, so if you prefer to use another program, you certainly may. But if you need my technical help, you will have to transfer the file into Audacity, all right? Cool. You must add 3 additional elements to your final product. or podcast. So your final end podcast that you create is going to have 3 additional elements other than your recorded voice. Now, these elements could be things like music, fades, voice alteration, speed manipulation, splicing, Foley art, which I'll tell you about in a second, added sound elements. I will be providing tutorials over the next 2 Wednesdays during these class sessions about all of this stuff, okay? Format your podcast according to the podcast formats you've read about. I've also supplied for you an Audacity Basics tutorial sheet that there's a link to, and it's also in your Canvas. And that has information for getting the proper file formatting, all of that, because you want an MP3. Don't worry about that right now. We'll get to that next week when you start to wrap these things up. But there is a very easy instructional guide to all of this. All right. So one of the things that I wanted to get back to real quick is Foley art, okay? Foley artists are people who create sounds for movies and audio production. And these sounds, we know, for instance, okay, if you've ever seen a lot of kung fu movies, you'll hear, right? And that sound, that is not sound of a punch. Hopefully you've never been punched or punched anyone else. But if you have, it doesn't go, all right? That sound, it doesn't happen naturally. That is a Foley artist who is creating a representation of a punch or a karate chop sound, right? That sound was made by a person in a studio, and actually that sound that we often use in movies is the sound of a leather jacket being slapped on the hood of a Cadillac and then manipulated through audio means. Foley art is a true art, and it is really, really cool, right? Think about, what does something sound like, and then what do I have in my home or just in my area where I can replicate that same kind of sound. So for instance, I'm sitting here right now, and I like to drink seltzer water, cucumber seltzer water. I thoroughly enjoy it, and I have this here. But let's say that I was working on a set, and I have 2 cans of this sitting next to my computer. Let's say that I was working on a set, and I was trying to recreate the sound of an elevator, because I'm not actually in an elevator like it looks like in the movie or that I'm in. Instead, I'm actually in a studio, right? There's no video recording at all. You're just hearing me audibly. Rather than go and actually stand and record the sound of an elevator, I could just go. And now that's not a perfect sound, right? But that little ding would probably let me know that, something like that could make like an elevator sound. That's a Foley noise, right? That's just taking something that was near me and using it to represent something else, like the ding of an elevator or something like that, if you had it, okay? That's what Foley art is. And so play with that. That might be something for those of you who have never heard of this and never thought of this before, you can make a lot of money doing this. It's a kind of an interesting career. Maybe some of you are into film or audio production and you never really thought about it. But yeah, Foley art is something that is really, really cool. A lot of people don't know about, but it's something that you can play with for this assignment. So everything in this assignment is only about listening. So I want you to look at the materials I've given you and start to really kind of think about it. I also would love for you to listen to a podcast that you find to be interesting to kind of see how it works out, right? And you have lots of examples on the podcast formats page that I've given you, and look through those resources, all right? And we'll get all into that more tomorrow into specifics. So the big thing for this week is downloading Audacity, beginning your research into your big idea, and then just kind of understanding formats of the podcast. And then next week you're actually going to, next week you begin recording and stuff like that. And then next week we'll kind of put it all together, edit it all up, and then you'll have your finished product. And I bet you guys are going to really think it's pretty cool. At least I will. All right. Questions, comments, concerns, reach out. We're going to go over a bunch more stuff tomorrow morning and Tuesday's session. But if you have any questions or concerns before that, please do reach out. As always, If you don't hear back from me in 24 hours during the week, shoot me another email. I probably just missed it. If it's the weekend, give me 48 hours. If it's, so Monday through Thursday, 24 hours, Friday through Sunday, 48 hours. All right. Have a great week, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. All right.